Wait, there's something very weak coming through.
A long time ago, in a galaxy far, far away.
Hello, fellow Galactic listeners. My name is Aaron Julian, and this is WSTR Galactic Public Access, a Star Wars podcast. Welcome to episode 147. It's been a while since I've said that. I am glad to be back onto the podcast proper. Today, we have got a special guest to discuss the mysterious secrets of the Mandalorian trailer and why that matters for you, the average Star Wars fan. This guy, Todd found him on Twitter. Don't know how, but that's neither here nor there. He's got a great plethora of Star Wars art that he does in the style of JD Tartakovsky's 2003 Clone Wars series. His name, JazzyTyFighter, a.k.a. Tyler. Welcome to the show, Tyler.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Thanks for joining us. It's a pleasure to have you here. Joining me today, someone we are introducing as a new regular host on WSTR, my good friend, Mr. JD Barrow.
It's me, everyone. I'm back again.
I know, we can't get rid of him.
Somehow the two different blacklists didn't work. Desperation really crept in to a whole new level, and now I'm a quote-unquote regular host, I guess, is the terminology.
That is true. You are no longer a returning guest. You are a regular host. You are part of the WSTR media family.
Yay.
For better, for worse, in sickness and health.
I think we all know it's for worse, Aaron. I think we all know it's for worse.
This is the moment the show has jumped the shark. Okay, so stick with us. We're going to pay some bills. You can find everyone here, except myself, on social media. WSTR Media, all one word, all lowercase. You can email us at mailbox@wstrmedia.com. Leave us a voicemail at 630-557-WSTR. That's 630-557-9787. You call that up, my phone will ring, I'll ignore you, and you go to voicemail, and then you are on the show. We want to hear from you, and you want to hear your gorgeous, sexy voice blasted across the galactic holonet. Don't be shy. Our entire back catalog of episodes and all links can be found at podcast.wstrmedia.com. Let me tell you why you should check out Audible. It's an easy, no-risk way to support this podcast, find some entertainment, find some education, and dare I say it, edutainment in the downtime of your day. Let's face it, you work a crappy job. You got a long commute. It sucks. But Amazon has a service for you to make it at least partially worth your time. They have over 425,000 titles to choose from, wherever and whenever and however you want to listen. Head on over to audibletrial.com/WSTR. You get a free 30-day trial, which includes a free audiobook of your choice and 2 free Audible originals. Those are exclusive mini audiobook experiences you can't find anywhere else. They got a new selection cycled out each month, so check out what they have in store for you this November. Don't miss out on November's Audible originals or your choice of 425,000 titles. And if at any time it's not worth it for you, you're not happy with the service, cancel anytime, no questions asked, no mess to clean up. We still get paid. Amazon, well, they're left holding the bag, but you get to keep your book and 2 Audible originals. Everybody wins. So once again, that's audibletrial.com/WSTR to get your free audiobook and 2 free Amazon audiobook originals today. We also got a merch store. Head on over to store.wstrmedia.com. That will shoot you over to our good friends over at Teespring, where you can cover yourself head to toe in WSTR merchandise and rep your favorite local, homegrown, free-range, organic podcast. We're also on Patreon. Check it out. We have some exclusive content that you can't find anywhere else, including something that JD and I have cooked up.
Hey.
Just a place to talk a little bit in depth, a little bit more niche topics within Star Wars and related matters. and we're calling it Starside Chat.
Starside Chat.
Take a listen to this clip right now. Okay, so we're calling this Starside Chat.
Starside Chat. Like it's a combination of like, Star Wars and Fireside. Imagine like two guys sitting in a little lounge area on a spaceship, and there's a big old window with like stars and space, and they're just chatting away. Yeah, it is a tabletop RPG, so think more like Pathfinder, so something off the beaten path, but then go off the beaten path a bit more, and then go into the ocean, and that's where we are, because I made my own tabletop system.
Nerd alert!
Nerd alert!
I've always thought this as a kid. I guess I think it now, but there has to be someone out there who, you know, goes to McDonald's, sits down, orders whatever they eat, and they just sit there with a contented smile on their face, and they say, I'm loving it. Yeah. There has to be. So, if you want to listen to that and more, head on over to patreon.com/WSTR Media. You can also find a new show put on by Heather called Heather's Hollow Chronicles. That's right. She has got a lot of Star Wars to catch up on, as I'm sure all of us do, and she's going to share bits of that journey with you. So head on over to patreon.com/WSTR Media. You can support us, get free exclusive content, including, but not limited to, input on what we're going to talk about on the show in the future. Ooh. Ain't that special? We got special merch for you, special little trinkets and baubles for you. All of that and more over at patreon.com/WSTR Media. All right, JD, we've got news coming up. Some folks consider that spoilers.
We do have news.
Let us spare their ears and give them a little teaser of where we're headed.
Yeah, so let's see if I can do a better job of the semicolons than previous hosts who shall remain nameless. And also hosts who have written said semicolons. So
wow. Get invited into the family and you immediately start throwing shade everywhere you can.
Every time I was on, this was a point of difficulty. Every single episode that I was a part of.
Oh my goodness!
I have memories. I have the
all right. If you're so good at it, let's hear it.
No, I was just anticipating my inevitable failure.
Okay. All right.
So we have featured film. We have That's Impossible at That Size. No microtransactions. What? No dragons? ? And then power. Absolute power! 3 exclamation points.
Whoa.
For those of you who cannot read.
Todd's been taking my advice.
Yeah?
Only 1 exclamation point or 3. 2 looks like a mistake. More than 3 is just excessive.
That's not bad advice, actually. I think that's good. I think I read a Proverbs about that one time.
I'm sure it's in the style guide somewhere.
It's in the guide.
All right. Without further ado, we have heard from some of you, and this is Intercepted Imperial Transmission.
Senator! Intercepted Imperial Transmission, Mom.
Okay, so Anthony reached out to us. He is Rural Farm Boy on Twitter. Quite the relevant name. And he sent us an audio clip, a pre-recorded. See, he took all the work out from us.
Hooray!
He sent it to our email address at mailbox@wstrmedia.com. Thank you, Anthony. Here we go.
How do, WSTR Media crew? My name's Anthony. And you know me a little bit better in that Twitterverse. I go as Rural Farm Boy. And I'm listening to your episode 146 for this. And you started the show out talking about your favorite parts of that Rise of Skywalker trailer. And then you went and asked what listeners maybe had a favorite part. And my favorite part, for me, I know we saw lots of quick, short shots. And I'm gonna go and choose a little bit longer one. And for me, my favorite part was right when the Lucasfilm logo starts. It ends right when they tell us it's going to be seen in theaters come December 20th. Yeah, that's my favorite part. Also going to want to go and ask, what's your podcast playlist look like each of you? Who all yous listening to? And I want to go and ask one more quick favor. Also in that Twitterverse, we see him as 2med2. Yeah, he's got a little YouTube channel he does where he does unboxings and such. And Monday evenings, he does live chats, which is a lot of fun. And if you see that's happening, come stop by. And his YouTube channel, also the same name, 2med2. So I look forward to episode 147. Until that time, Todd, Miss Heather, and Aaron, if you're there, may the force be with you. And I will see you on the radio.
Okay, so thank you, Anthony, for sharing your thoughts on the final trailer for The Rise of Skywalker. So it's evident he loves the whole thing. It's a lot of hype, which JD and I talked about on Starside Chat, which you can listen over at patreon.com.
Patreon.com.
Always be closing. ABC.
ABC.
And he asked what is on your podcast playlist. So, JD, you're a connoisseur of podcasts, I'm sure. So what's on yours?
I have a confession to make, Aaron.
What's that?
I don't listen to podcasts.
Oh, no! How could
Thanks
you?
for making me feel less bad since I pretty much listened to two.
I guess secondary confession. The only consistent podcast that I listen to is WSTR. And it's only really the episodes that Aaron points out to me as like, you'd be interested in this. Or re-listening to the ones that I was a part of. Because I definitely don't have a pride issue or an ego issue. Or I'm super self-conscious about my voice being recorded.
Self-serving and narcissistic.
And self-deprecating, all in a package.
Just what we're looking for in the WSTR media family.
Great candidate. I don't really listen to consistent podcasts. I pretty much just rely on my friends who do to send me like episodes that are really good. And then they just send me those. So I guess some of them... there's a podcast done by some Englishmen called Critical Role.
Yes.
They're an offshoot of... Or sorry, not Critical Role.
I was about to say, they're not English.
No, not Critical Role, not Critical... what am I can't remember, but they're basically the offshoot Dungeons & Dragons group that is associated with the Yogscast. I'm sure there's a bunch of people out there that instantly are screaming at me the name of these people. I think High Rollers.
High Rollers.
High Rollers. That's the one.
That's the one.
There's also a Yogpod D&D stuff. So I like some of their things. And then Critical Role. I don't know if they have a podcast thing. I think I listened to an episode of them one time, like a YouTube video, but I just listened to it in the background because somebody sent it to me. And then there was another podcast. You sent me an episode of something. I don't remember. So yeah, it's just kind of random.
I don't remember either.
Bits of things that people shoot my way. I don't really have consistent podcasts I listen to.
So you're the guy that goes to the podcast buffet, takes the fricassee, and just leaves everything else.
I'm the guy who goes up to the buffet and I just take one item of everything. That's literally kind of how I do buffets. I will literally. Like, I will force my plate to be able to carry one item of everything. Even if I don't think I'm going to eat that item, I worry about, like, missing out of the buffet selection. So I just, like, take a piece of whatever.
All right, cool.
Also, you get to try new things out that maybe you wouldn't have normally. So
that's true. Mm-hmm. That's very true. I'm a pretty regular podcast listener. Joe Rogan's on there all the time just because... It's the most popular podcast out there. You need to keep track of what he's doing. So, so for those who don't know the Joe Rogan experience, he's a comedian, UFC fight commentator formerly, and he got into the podcast game early. So his is huge, and he he's fairly good at interviewing people, and he gets a lot of interesting guests on there. So it's hard to pin down exactly what the show's about, but he'll go on for like 2, 3, 4 hours with a guest and just like talk about a wide variety of topics, get really deep into it. So if you're interested in, especially like intellectual conversations, and getting to the bottom of that, or just a bunch of comedians goofing around, the Joe Rogan Experience is your thing. I also like the Art of Manliness podcast. So that's a bit of a different vibe. It's more like a personal development, kind of improving your life sort of thing. And
Self-help.
Yeah. And he gets a lot of interesting guests and authors and such on as well. And then another podcast I listen to is it's not really a podcast, but a repackaged content, Critical Role. So JD mentioned them.
Yeah.
What they do, they're a group of voice actors who are all friends with each other. And they get together every week and they live stream a continuous Dungeons and Dragons campaign that they're a part of. And so because they're voice actors, they're all pretty good at getting into character and bringing them to life. And it's very professionally produced and done, and it's just unlike anything you'll ever see. So that once again, that's Critical Role. They take each week's episode and repackage it into a podcast, and that's a good way to listen to it if you can't just sit down and watch. So that's what I'm into. Tyler, do you listen to any podcasts?
Besides Legends of the Internet, and I don't know if it really counts as one, but I sometimes do r/.
Okay. Tell us about those.
I will try watching this one more, especially with the anticipation of Rise of Skywalker on the way.
Yes.
But about the podcast I just listed.
Go ahead.
Oh yeah, Legends of the Internet. We talk about, as the title implies, both infamous and famous people of the internet. But then they also break off into nerd talk about whatever's popular or going on at the moment. With r/, it basically ranges from a bunch of random posts on Reddit. Like r/entitled parents or r/malicious compliance.
Yep.
Or r/nuclear revenge.
JD, was it you that showed me r/bread stapled to trees?
Yes.
Do I dare ask what that is?
It's exactly what it sounds like. Bread stapled to trees.
Bread stapled to trees.
And people will list like what kind of bread they stapled into what kind of tree.
Yeah, they get really into it. Like any niche, deep underbelly of Reddit, the culprits, I guess, inevitably get completely sucked into the subject way more than like you ever should, and they just get consumed by it. Bread stapled to trees is no exception to this.
That's true. I also like kids falling over.
Oh yeah,
It's just GIFs and videos of little kids falling over, and that's hilarious to me for some reason.
I'm sorry for the further tangential nature of this tangent. Say that 3 times fast.
Yeah.
But I recently stumbled across subreddit r uncommon insults. It's pretty great. It's pretty great because like this, a lot of times you'll see a lot of like reoccurring memes, like insult memes and stuff, and you'll just be like, yeah, I've seen that. So they are very intentional about seeking out ones that like aren't common to see on the internet, and they'll do a good job of like kicking out repeats and reposts. So it is like a nice stream of like fresh insults if you need to get some new ones for people.
I do appreciate like well curated, well moderated subreddits like that. Yeah. Tyler, could you give us an example with Legends of the Internet? Maybe one person that you found really interesting that they've covered on the show.
Chris Chan.
Oh my goodness! I know.
I think that was the first episode that I watched of the podcast and/or series, and boy, is that one huge rabbit hole.
Oh yeah, it is insane. I'll send you a video that kind of sums it up in like 30 minutes.
Okay.
But it's one of those stories that's like it's it's like a train wreck that you can't look away from.
Oh no!
And you'll kind of lose
It's
faith in
basically
humanity.
how not to internet.
Yes.
Without being too harsh, because it's also a case of what cyberbullying and what internet trolling can do. Worst case scenario.
Ooh.
Yeah.
It's a case where it's like you feel bad, but you also have to question how much of it was self-inflicted.
Yeah. It's and
That's
it's hard
all
to talk
I will
about
say
without
because I don't want to be too mean about it, and I don't want to give any details. And I will warn you, it does get pretty graphic at some points.
Yeah, it's hard to talk about it without A, spoiling it, and B, going not safe for work. So
Lovely. I have that to look forward to.
that
is our only disclaimer.
Yes. So legends of the internet and r/. So thank you, Tyler. That's an intercepted Imperial transmission. So thank you, Anthony, rural farm boy, for reaching out to us. We got a pretty decent discussion about that.
Yeah, we did. I wonder if he's from Bristol. I'm originally from Bristol, and it's all farmland down there.
There's lots of farmland in the U.S. and around the world, JD. It's not all Virginia.
It's in one spot, one location.
There are some places in mid-Canada that are apparently look like Texas, where it's just plain flat farmland.
Yeah.
So I've been told. I've never been to
world.
Canada. I've just been told that, yes, there are some parts of Canada that look like Texas.
Still covered in moose, though, I'm assuming.
Yes. Let's move on to the Twitter trash compactor.
Get in there, you big polio! I don't care what you smell! Get in there, don't worry about it!
Okay. We are in the Twitter trash compactor, up to our knees in nothing but filth and trash, because that's what comes from Twitter.
I think something brushed against my leg.
Yeah, we got to get out of here.
Oh wait, it was just a political post.
Oh no! All right, so we posted a poll. What is your favorite moment of the Mandalorian trailer? There were 4 choices: Carbonite bounties, the Trandoshan smackdown, I Believe I Can Grapple, and super battle droids. Before we get to the results, JD, what's your vote?
This is difficult because I barely noticed the droids, and also I think there's a prequel like droid starship. That,
there's like a
over.
droid dropship.
Yeah, it flies over. So I barely caught those. Those were like really fast to me, and I wasn't really sure if they happened. And then I was really interested when I saw all the Trandoshans in Carbonite, because, normally our past experience of it in, episode 5, which is, I guess, technically almost the most advanced tech time in Star Wars, right?
Yeah.
Excluding the Disney post episode 6 movies.
Right.
And it takes like this massive, big old giant room to like Carbonite freeze something. And he's got like this ship, and it's not a small ship, but it's not that big.
Right.
It's like, so how'd you do that? How'd you do that?
How you do? Well, my understanding, and this is where that was actually kind of my least favorite part of the trailer, because my whole understanding was that it was very much a jerry-rigged system, and that they're taking all this industrial equipment and just kind of repurposing it to kind of, in a pinch, just freeze Han in a procedure that they didn't really test, didn't know if it would work. But now we're seeing it's a routine thing. So
well, this is post episode 6, right?
It is.
Okay, then you think maybe Boba Fett probably went around being like, hey, there's this really nifty thing you can do for your bounties. You can freeze them in Carbonite.
It's true. Or it might be the case that Carbonite freezing was a routine thing already, and they're just figuring out how to do it with industrial equipment. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I think I remember, this is going to be really nerdy lore stuff, but I remember actually reading like whatever the wiki encyclopedia, like one of those, really cool Piction dictionaries, pictured encyclopedias. That,
like
through the movies and stuff.
Dorling Kindersley.
Yeah, and so Cloud City primarily got most of its money from freezing the different gases in the atmosphere into these carbonite blocks. And so you saw that facility. It was supposed to be, like the visual guide to like ships and weapons and stuff and that stuff.
Yeah.
And it that facility was supposed to freeze the different gases for like engine fuel and for like food processing, a bunch of other things, just whatever gas the Star Wars people needed. McCloud City could freeze it and ship it to you. So that's why they're like, yeah, we can freeze him, but he's not really supposed to like keep anybody alive. Like, it's not really built for, living things.
Yeah.
So that's why everybody was like, is he going to die? But anyway, all that rabbit trail down, I think I'd have to do with the Trandoshan Smackdown. First of all, we haven't seen in any of the movies Trandoshans actually do anything. And they're one of the cooler races, and they actually have a pretty big impact on like the galaxy. Like if you play some of the video games or, watch the Clone Wars, Trandoshans are generally having an impact on things, especially like their slave trade and whatnot, fight with the Wookiees. So it was really cool to see him fighting Trandoshans and them getting a bit of spotlight time. And then you also get to see like how cool the Mandalorian is to be going toe-to-toe with 3 or 4. I forget. But a group of Trandoshans. So
that's true.
That was me.
You think they're going to be like a mob boss family, like a faction that he has to contend with?
That could be cool if he gets on the bad side of the slave trade, if they want to bring that in. I don't know how dark they want to make the show, because slavery is kind of a... Slavery is kind of a...
Prequels already went there. Come on.
Topic. Well, yeah, but they did it in a really, like, casual way.
They talked about planting a bomb in his brain that explodes if he tries to escape.
What?
Yeah. That's a throwaway line that Anakin threw out there in episode 1.
I don't remember this. I have no memory of it.
Yeah. And also, they already crossed the dead kids line, so...
Yeah, true. Yeah, no.
In episode 3.
But this is Disney time now, so
That's true. That's true. Okay. My vote, I'm going to write it in and say Bill Burr. That's another podcast I listen to, the Monday Morning Podcast.
Monday morning.
Which also releases on Thursday mornings. But anyway, and then it's the Thursday morning, Monday Morning Podcast. But given these choices, I don't know what Todd is talking about with I Believe I Can Grapple. So I'm going to go with Super Battle Droids. Tyler, what would you choose given these 4 options?
I'm going to have to go with Trandoshan Smackdown.
There's a good lad.
I mean, Super Battle Droids, that more prequel references, we need that.
Mm-hmm.
But with Trandoshans, we really don't have that much for canon lore or material with them outside of being able to play as Bosk in Battlefront 2, right?
I mean, we get a good amount of them from the newer, not the 2003, but the like Netflix, newer Disney Plus Clone Wars. Like you actually get to learn about their whole religiosity system, about how their whole life is an attempt to build up as many points as they can in like the great hunt that is their life as a culture. And then if they like get disgraced or they get dishonored, they lose all of their points. And it's like a really big deal for them. So it's kind of what motivates them to be slave traders and bounty hunters and assassins and like conquering things, defeating things, killing people, killing worldly adversaries, making really tough enemies like the Wookiees like subordinate to them. Those are all things that like build points for them. And that's kind of like their whole identity is captured in their ethereal score. And so there's an episode based around.
I see. It's been a while since I've seen CGI Clone Wars, so I must have missed that.
Yeah, so like we've gotten a little bit more of them as time has gone on, but still not outside of the games and comics. We still haven't really gotten like everything about them. So,
all right. Well, here's what Twitter came up with. 50-50 split between Trandoshan Smackdown and Super Battle Droids. So, given JD's vote and Tyler's vote, we're going to have to declare Trandoshan Smackdown as a winner.
Hey, we did it.
Then I think one person voted for I Believe I Can Grapple, and nobody voted for Carbonite Bounties.
Yeah.
So,
is that the first time you guys have had a 0% on the poll?
No, we've had it before, but I can't recall which one. I just know it's happened before. So thank you for everybody who voted. Sorry for all of you that lost. Those who won, you get nothing.
You get nothing. Good day, sir.
All right, time is escaping us, so let's head right into our main topic.
And now for our feature presentation.
All right, so Tyler, you are on the hot seat. The spotlight is on you. Let's just get right into it. So, how did you get into Star Wars?
That is very strange for me because I don't even know if I'm like a prequel era guy, because I remember being very little and seeing all the trailers and commercials for episodes 1 and 2, but I just did not have an interest in them at the time. But it wasn't until Cartoon Network's 2003 Genndy Tartakovsky's Clone Wars series came on, saying this is going to lead into episode 3. And also it helps that I saw the trailer of hearing that familiar Darth Vader breathing. So I got curious, watched the Genndy Tartakovsky series, and loved it. And that's what inspired me to draw that series that is currently on my Twitter and DeviantArt and Instagram, called #DarkSideSquare series, where I draw both canon and Legends characters in the Genndy Tartakovsky style as a tribute to it. And so I saw episode 3 as the first. I saw episode 3 as the first movie I saw in theaters and loved it.
So it was the animated series that really got you into it.
Yes.
Okay. And so tell us a bit more about this series that you drew.
I basically have two. I guess the very first one that I ever did was Ventress, because since I had a reference, I could draw her in the style 1-to-1. But then I figured, why don't I, since the show is unfortunately not canon, except for a few aspects, why not go in the middle and then give her those purple tribal markings so it is canon?
Okay.
And then it went to Kylo Ren, and then I realized, you know what? I'm going to run out if I just stick to canon, so I'll just do Legends also. And after I saw The Force Awakens, I went on a huge expanded universe binge and learned about all these other Sith Lords I've never heard about. I mean, I've heard of Revan, I've heard of Bane, I've seen Darth Nihilus' mask, but I didn't know what his name was. So basically, my two rules when drawing this series is they have to be Force sensitive. They have to use the dark side of the Force. So General Grievous, Boba Fett, Jango Fett, they don't count.
Okay.
Also, my other rule is they cannot contradict their current canon as of right now. So, sorry guys, I'm not drawing Darth Kaitus unless you commission me for it. Because Kylo Ren's existence pretty much debunks Darth Kaitus, or Jason. That's his name, right?
Ben.
No. I mean Darth Kaitus in the old lore. His name was Jason Solo, wasn't he?
I think so.
Believe so, yes.
Yeah.
What other characters? I think Darth Krayt is another one that's not canon, that takes place during this current sequel era that I'm not going to do. But otherwise, when it comes to the older characters like Darth Nihilus or Darth Bane, or wait, he's canon. So,
yeah, Bane's canon.
Exar Kun. There's nothing in the current canon that says these guys never existed or don't exist. So that's why I will still draw them.
All right. And JD's particularly interested in one of the characters that you drew.
Well, two of them. So I'm my kind of big area that I love absolutely is the Old Republic. So I'm a huge fan of the KOTOR games, and probably my favorite characters in all of Star Wars are Revan and Kreia, or Darth Treya, as you have her here. So that's kind of my area of expertise, and my biggest love for Star Wars is in that time period.
Yeah, I do like what they did with it, and I like the concept of how there were a ton of Sith, but then Darth Revan came along saying, that's it, we're spending too much time killing each other and we should be killing the Jedi. And then Darth Bane officially made it law, saying, nope, that's it, 2 only, no more than that.
Yeah, no, the rule of 2 is a very...
Because even as a kid during the prequel era, I thought, why stick yourself to just 2 members of red lightsaber wielders when you can have an army? And then once I read up about Darth Revan conquering Mandalore and just the concept of all the Sith killing each other. Oh, okay, yep, now that makes sense.
So you got this series going, and you're highlighting the dark side of the Force. Is there, and you said it's mostly because you saw these characters are super cool but non-canon, and you just wanted better representation of them. Is that right?
Yeah, I'm one of the fans who embraces both the old and the new stuff, and that these guys shouldn't be forgotten. And I'm glad they're not. There is still a dedicated fan base to the EU, but like I said, they're legends. I'm glad that they called it Legends. If you think about it, it's kind of ingenious that they called it Legends because it's a way of bookmarking them, saying, we're not saying these guys never existed. We're just going to hold them off until just the right moment to bring them back into canon.
Right.
Because, like I said, when it comes to the really old characters, there's nothing in the current sequel trilogy or any of the other current material that says these guys never existed. Mm-hmm. And that's the concept of Legends, right? You don't know whether they're true or not. We're not saying it never happened, but we don't know if it is 100% true.
Yes, and I've stated before quite cynically that Disney's basically putting all the extended universe stuff on a shelf and basically, wrapping it with ambiguity and then saying like, oh, we'll pick this and this and this, the best of the bunch, and make that canon, which is a smart thing to do. I just don't think it makes anybody happy. But yeah, it's great that you're basically giving these legends new life in a style of a show that's meant a lot to you.
Thanks.
So how did you get into drawing in the first place?
Oh man, that probably traces back all the way since, I guess, kindergarten, since I was always that kid drawing during class, or I would always be drawing whatever I saw on TV or movies, whether it be Disney or Legos or Pokemon or Speed Racer. Mm-hmm. If I liked it, I would draw it, and I still continue to do that to this day.
All right. It's just a natural instinct for you, essentially.
Yeah.
Cool. So why the Clone Wars cartoon series in particular? Like what drew you to that? Pardon
the aesthetic or the show itself?
Both, I would say.
Yeah,
Oh, now I get it. Yeah, I like the show because since I was new to Star Wars, it was episodic and it was an anthology, and I guess they played an episode like for 5 minutes between every Cartoon Network show, and that was perfect for me because I didn't have to have an encyclopedic knowledge of the lore as I do now. So I could jump into any episode and still know what's going on, or they're self-contained stories like the gladiator fight scene where that first introduces Ventress to Dooku, which I'm so glad that is canon again, according to the audio drama, right? The Count Dooku audio drama brought it back.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah, that was great. Another one of my favorites that I'm sad is not canon is the temple fight between Anakin and Ventress. This is one of those shows where I did like it as a kid, but I grew to love it more as an adult because I never realized how quiet the show was. Yeah,
it's true. There's that's something I really appreciate about Tartakovsky-style. Is because especially, have you seen his new show Primal?
I've seen Primal and Samurai Jack season 5.
Yeah. Primal, there's not, the first episode, at least, that's all I've been able to see. There's not a word of dialogue in the whole thing.
No, I've saw all 5 episodes, and from what I heard, I think they are going to finish it later. But yeah, it's only 5 episodes. There is no dialogue outside of screaming and grunting.
Wow. Yeah. And that in itself is a great storytelling challenge to be able to just tell it all with visual and audio cues. But what what I like about his style in particular is that he does have those big explosive moments of action, but he knows when to just turn the volume down and let you sit in this kind of atmospheric frame of mind, and to just he uses it very well in order to make the high points higher and the low points lower. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I think Pan Pizza, Rebel Taxi, whatever his name is on YouTube, said it best how when it comes to Tartakovsky's action, it's probably the smoothest and best looking 2D fighting you will ever see.
Absolutely.
Because another highlight that I hope will be canonized again is that Mace Windu fight against all those droids where he just took them all out without even using a lightsaber.
Yeah, that's for sure. Okay, so let's shift gears here a bit to the last Mandalorian trailer that dropped. We see Clone Wars kind of sneak into it with the super battle droids and the droid gunship, drop ship that flew overhead, kind of one of those blink and you'll miss it things. And then in the just like a week prior, the Rise of Skywalker final trailer, we got some regular battle droids. They seem to be in some kind of droid factory or storage. And so it's essentially with the new trilogy, like the first real acknowledgement of the prequel, of the prequel era. So given that, what do you think about that? What do you think about that Clone Wars connection?
I think it's great. I wish Disney would acknowledge the prequels a little more, because whenever I go to a Disney park, it always makes me sad. There's like no prequel merchandise anywhere.
Yeah.
Except maybe like one image of old Episode 3 Anakin, and that's it.
Yeah, and Heather reported on one of our episodes when she went to Galaxy's Edge that they do have prequel and original trilogy merchandise, but it's all like in this antique shop.
It's all in the corner.
Yeah, it's all in the corner in this like antiquities shop, and it's like, oh, there's my childhood left to die.
Left to die. Let the past die.
Yeah. JD, what do you think about the prequel connection with the new trailers?
I don't really know. I don't really know what to make about it. I think if the Emperor's coming back, like in a full like fashion, he's not just going to show up and instantly get killed.
Right.
Like good old Snoke was. Or maybe he will, who knows. I think the droids are probably his major, I guess, force, because you see a lot of like, old Imperial ships and stuff literally like just busting out of the ground in the trailer. So it's probably making use of the droids in that way, which is convenient and a fun kind of little element, because, he did have control of both sides. Right, he had the clones and he had the droids, so it's a fun idea to think like he just kept the droids all like in a basement somewhere, locked behind a little wooden door, and he's like, okay, now. So as far as how it's really going to connect to like future ideas and things post Episode 9 with Mandalorian and this kind of resurgence of introducing more prequel elements. I don't know. I am a little saddened, because as much as I do want to see the more prequel content, I do feel like post Episode 9 was a fantastic opportunity for Disney to like move into Legends material and start like Old Republic and, post New Republic and a lot of those weird elements that they've been, like you said, slowly adding in, right? But instead it kind of feels like they're just staying safe. They're like, this made money, we have merchandise made for this, let's just use more of what we have.
Squeeze it for all it's worth.
So on the one hand, I like they're introducing more prequel stuff. On the other hand, I'm like, well, okay, more recycling, I guess, is the name of the game.
Yeah, it's like Disney's got like an iced tea on the porch, and they're just sitting back and staring into the sunset and saying, "Remember when?
Remember when we weren't there, but you were." So give us
Farm remembers.
Pepperidge Farm.
Exactly. All right. We still got to get to news items, and time is running short. So let's wrap this up with this bomb that dropped. So this is from Slash Film. They drew attention to a New York Times article about the workings of Disney Plus, and hidden in there is this big revelation that a dramatic Star Wars universe spoiler is contained in the first episode of The Mandalorian. So, The Mandalorian, which this is a quote from the New York Times article. The Mandalorian, which contains a dramatic Star Wars universe spoiler in the first episode and will be available the moment Disney Plus starts, has been as heavily promoted as a traditional feature film, with billboards, 30-second television commercials, radio spots, and digital ads. Tyler, what do you think that major spoiler will be?
That's really tough. If I had to guess, maybe Boba Fett lives?
I was going to say that, actually. That seems the
Because
most
in
obvious
Legends
likely
he
candidate.
lived, and I figured that I think there even in current canon there are hints that he lived. Like his armor was in the mouth, and that's it.
Right.
I don't know. I really don't know what else can you do post episode 6. That's a big universal game changer for Star Wars. Like, would they really show us who Snoke is at a younger age? Would they really show something going regarding the Skywalkers? Because it seems like they're sticking to comics and showing what the original trio did between 6 and 7.
Right.
But if I'm gonna put money on Boba Fett lives.
All right, JD.
I think that's the most likely one. I'm going to agree with Tyler. So if that's betting on black at the roulette table, I think the red option, the really far out there, maybe the green option, like there's one slot on the spinny wheel that's green, but part of me really wants it to be a thing, is potentially the Mandalorian could be wearing the helm of Mandalore. So for those who do or don't know, Mandalorians actually do pop up quite a bit in Clone Wars stuff, CGI Clone Wars, and their ideas and their canon, their philosophy is slowly being like more and more pushed into mainstream. Thanks a lot to Dave Filoni, who's a big Old Republic fan like myself, because that's where we get most of our Mandalorian content and knowledge and whatever. And there's a specific item that is the most important thing to the entire culture. It's called the Helm of Mandalore. And it kind of looks pretty similar to the Mandalorian's helmet and his mask and everything he's got going on. It looks distinctly similar. And basically, whoever wears it is the head of all Mandalorians, and they do have to fight for it continually, and they do have to like prove themselves over and over and over again that they are worthy of it. But if that was reintroduced, and even if this is just a lone, wandering Mandalorian guy who happens to have the helm, but at this point it doesn't really mean much because, Mandalorians are barely anywhere, barely nowhere. It would reinstitute a lot of old canon, a lot of Old Republic stuff, and it would do a big kind of shift to the entire universe to add that kind of content in.
I think you're touching on it from a pretty unique angle in that it reminds me, this is basically going to be a space western. And so that reminds me of, there's a film, The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. And it takes place like right at the end of the Civil War when the cowboy lifestyle is kind of going out of style and kind of dying off. Yeah. And these are pretty much like the last gunfighters around. And I think if you could go with that angle, but with The Mandalorian, then I think that could be a very cool thing.
It could be cool. And there is a line in the trailer where the Imperial officer, who's I guess receiving the bounty or making the deal with the Mandalorian, whatever.
Werner Herzog.
Yeah, he makes a comment about like it's not been easy for your people, like it's not been great for them right now.
Yeah.
So it could be something like The Good, the Bad, the Ugly, where like Mandalorians are dying off, Mandalorian culture is dying out, everything's falling apart, they're literally disappearing, and then he somehow, one way or another, gets this helm, and maybe
it would answer a lot of questions that Rebels left wide open on if they really were dying out or not. And I hope this show, I'm still debating on getting Disney Plus in the first place, but if I hear a lot of good things, I will get it for Mandalorian. But hopefully we will get to see a live action Darksaber. Or since it's talking about Mandalore, please bring Darth Revan back since he conquered the planet.
Yeah, no, that's kind of the thing I was thinking is that
talk about how he took one of their helmets as a trophy. This is the perfect opportunity to bring him back into canon.
And he's the one who kills the second to last official Mandalore, and then gives the helmet to the last like unifying Mandalorian with I forget his name, but he's in KOTOR 1 and 2.
Yeah, but
Canderous.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, what if he's got the helm of Mandalore for all intents and purposes, he is Mandalore, but nobody cares.
Nobody cares, and he's got a. Yeah, maybe he doesn't care, and then somebody like makes him care.
Yeah, and he's essentially just cursed to wander the galaxy, making a living.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we come full circle if this new Mandalorian is going Samurai Jack.
Yeah, there you go. Okay, so time is vanishing swiftly away, so we are just going to go lightning round through our
News of the Week.
News of the Week.
And now, the Star Wars News of the Week.
From IGN, Obi-Wan Kenobi Disney Plus series was originally a movie. Ewan McGregor confirms, quote, "I'm really into the idea to be able to tell the story over several hours instead of just one hit." So he confirmed that in a interview recently, and that is what IGN is reporting. So
and we're making the Kenobi show.
Yes, I think cynical me says Disney figured they get a lot more money out of Disney Plus subscriptions instead of selling tickets.
Well, I don't know. I think especially with like Netflix originals and stuff, like you can do a lot more with shows nowadays than movies.
You
like
can.
As far as like breadth of storytelling.
Sure, absolutely. All right, JD, next one.
Wedge Antilles returns in Resistance Reborn exclusive excerpt. Blah, blah, blah. Wedge Antilles hero at the Battle of Yavin. He's a legend. He's back. A prequel to The Rise of Skywalker, a book that came out. It's about Wedge.
Yeah, Wedge Antilles, what he's been up to this whole time during the Resistance.
Cool. That seems pretty throwaway and like, hey, give us money. It doesn't really seem very genuine, to be honest.
We got an excerpt on StarWars.com. It is due out November 5th. So by the time this episode drops.
Cool. All right, next one.
Next one. This is from GameSpot. Game of Thrones creators leave the Star Wars trilogy to focus on Netflix. I don't think anybody's upset about that, really.
Yeah, they were actually kicked out, so this title is a little misleading.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, I think the people who lose the most are Game of Thrones fans because season 8 was rushed in order to make room for this, and then it just gets canceled. So. And as we all know, season 8 was like the worst one.
I didn't care, so hooray. Okay, Lucasfilm reportedly limits creative control on Star Wars movies. A lot of newfound blah, blah, blah. Departed the brand trilogy. Now there's talk that Lucasfilm is limiting creative control on Star Wars moving forward. What does that mean? Like Lucasfilm is taking like a harder look at things? Keeping a more administrative look
I thought that's what they did already.
Yeah, no, this is weird. Yeah, because it's kind of dumb. It's kind of redundant because they've fired so many directors and they've kicked so many people out. Like just with these 3 main movies that we've gotten.
Yes.
So more control? No, I think they already had way too much oversight, and now they're just pretending like, oh, it's a good thing that we do that.
Yeah.
I don't
Do you think it's a PR publicity move?
Yeah, somewhat. I think it's just a dumb thing, like one of those corporate bits of vomit that just comes out of an organization every so often. You're like, why did you do that? Like, we didn't need that. Nobody asked for this.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, and that's the news.
All right. We're going to have to skip Cantina Chat. No!
Yeah, unfortunately, yeah.
Yes, but we got to go. So, thanks again for listening to another episode of WSTR Galactic Public Access. You can check us out on social media, WSTR Media, all one word, all lowercase. We want to hear from you. Comment, tweet, rate us on Apple Podcast, email us at mailbox@wstrmedia.com. Leave us a voicemail, 630-557-9787. You can catch our entire back catalog of episodes at podcast.wstrmedia.com. Merch is at store.wstrmedia.com. And we are on Patreon, patreon.com/WSTRmedia. Tyler, thank you so much for joining our show this episode. It was great to have you on.
Yes, thanks again for having me.
Absolutely. Where can everybody find you?
I am on Twitter and Instagram under @JazzyTyFighter. I'm also on DeviantArt. That is usually where I post the entries to Darkside Square Series first.
All right, that is JazzyTyFighter, TyFighter spelled Ty Fighter on Twitter and Instagram. Next week, episode 148, we are talking prophecies with David from Followers of the Force.
Ooh.
Now, JD knows how we wrap this up. Tyler,
I'm the worst person for
we
this.
didn't rehearse this, so this could be disastrous, but now this is podcasting. We did it.